a year and 2 years is really not that long. Like, I am sharing my experience and I've learned so much in these 2 years, but imagine for people who have been in industry for 5, 6, 7, 10 plus years, like imagine how much knowledge they have gained. And they didn't start that way. They started from the beginning. They started from the bottom. I really want to encourage that, and I hope this video can give you guys, for those of you who are just starting out, a sense of peace and relief that it is okay to feel overwhelmed and to feel unsure. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Icy and I'm so happy to have you here. So as you can tell by the background of this video, I am back with another Chats with Icy video, and today I'm going to be talking about my 2-year update as a legal assistant. I know, it's really crazy to think that it's basically been 2 years since I first became a legal assistant, and I honestly could not have predicted that this would be the journey that I am on, with plans to go to law school and also having a YouTube channel talking about my legal assistant journey. If you were to tell me in 2022, which is when I first got hired, that this would be what I would be doing, I would probably not believe you. But nonetheless, today I am going to be talking about just my update as a legal assistant for the past 2 years. I'm going to, as always, be giving you guys my advice, things that have changed. I'll be talking about my promotion last year, all of those things I'm going to be discussing in this video, as well as my future career plans about law school, because that is definitely something that I recently came to the decision that I want to do. So if you are interested in any of that, then just keep watching this video. I feel like the best way to start this update is just to give you guys a brief little background on what type of legal assistant I am, what I do, my role, and just kind of how I came into this industry. I've said this before in many other work vlogs, which if you are interested in knowing more about what I do as a legal assistant and more of like the hands-on experience, I have a ton of videos where I document days in my life as a legal assistant, things like that. So I'll leave a playlist or video up here. You guys can go ahead and check it out. But to briefly recap it, I graduated from college in the fall of 2022. So I graduated a semester early, and then the January following that, I got hired at the law firm that I work for now, and I work for an employment law firm, and I'm a legal assistant. My official title is Senior Onboarding Specialist, but for the sake of making it relatable for people and using a term that people will, can identify with the most, I say legal assistant, but that's just the term that my law firm uses because it is a separate department, but we're all considered legal assistants. It's just we have different specialties and different areas that we are working in and helping with attorneys. As part of the onboarding department, I am lead for that department, so my main role is to draft the client fee contracts and then also ensure that the two other legal assistants have what they need in order to get all of the necessary documentation that we need for the onboarding process. But that initial point of contact and accepting those clients, that's where my role comes in. And I've been in this specific role as senior onboarding specialist for, I want to say, let's see, October, November, December, January. So almost 4 months actually I've been in this specific position, but as a legal assistant, it's been about 2 years. So that is a brief summary on my role and my title. If you are curious about it, you'll hear me say this again and again in other work vlogs, but I do like to provide context because I know some of you find these videos and you're new subscribers, or you may have never watched my videos, so it's just helpful to give a little bit of background. So let's get into the meat of this video, which I did create a rough outline of this, so I am going to be looking at my laptop. If you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes because I want to make sure that this video is as organized and concise as possible for these more career-centered videos while also trying to keep it casual and kind of like we're talking in a coffee shop. Now, for those of you who have been following my channel for a while, then you will know that in December of 2023, in December of 2022, I actually left my employment law firm and I worked for a deposition company. Long story short, the reason why I left is because, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, the money sounded really great at the time for my age and my experience, and I just was trying to see where that opportunity would lead me. Once I got into the role, it became very apparent to me that I did not want to do this. I hated it. I was miserable. I have like 1 or 2 work vlogs of that time in my life, and yeah, you guys could all look at that. It's documented for you. But yeah, I worked at a deposition company for 3 months, realized very quickly that it was not for me, that I wanted to go back to the law firm that I was working at. And so I reached out to my former manager and asked her if she would consider taking me back, and luckily she did. They were very happy to welcome me back, and I'm incredibly grateful that I, one, was able to, but also felt comfortable enough to do that. I was way more fulfilled with what I wanted to do, and if anything, leaving the law firm that I worked at gave me a lot of perspective on what I really wanted to do for a career. So, you know, they say everything happens for a reason, and I like to think that those 3 months were just a very valuable learning experience. I came back to my law firm in March of 2023, which is when I kind of restarted again the legal assistant videos, and I realized that this was a really great way for me to not only document what I was learning in real time and look back on how far I've improved, or just to see where I was at, but it was also really helpful for you guys, and a lot of people reached out to me during this time when I started uploading more consistently again about work vlogs, and it was just really cool to be able to connect with all of you and see where your legal assistant journey was, and hearing your stories about how my video more or less inspired you, or just maybe, you know, inserted that, you know, seed of inspiration to look into this. Interestingly enough, I was actually in a different department at the time. So when I was rehired, I had the choice to go back into onboarding, or I could go into another position, which I had not done before, but at the time they really needed help in that department. And I was also eager to try something new, and I'm always someone who will give, I would say, something a fair shot. That I'll always try something at least once, and I'll know very soon if that's the right thing for me, which I'll get into that also later in this video in terms of whether or not you should become a legal assistant, because I get asked that a lot. I came back into the trial department. That department was very dynamic, and at the time, the person that I was working with, she had plans of already going to law school. So I had come into the role knowing that she would eventually leave, and then we would be hiring a replacement. So it was a very transitory period. And I think part of the reason why I struggled a little bit at first is because there wasn't a set structure to it. And that year in particular was very emotionally hard for me. So I just didn't have a lot of capacity for change. And I think I was really hard on myself. And I think had things been a little bit different, I might have stayed in that department. But like I said before, things happen for a reason, and I'm very happy with where I'm at now. And I think it did end up eventually working out, because going back into onboarding led me to my promotion. So I came back in March of 2023, started working in the trial department, which was a really valuable experience. But I told my manager that I really wanted to go back to onboarding. I really wanted to go back to where my roots were, where I first started when I first got hired at this law firm. And they're like, you know what? We hear you, we're gonna give that to you, but we have to wait a little bit until we have a solid replacement. And so I was like, okay, cool. And it did take a little bit of time for that to happen. Just logistically, we had to make sure things were in order. But eventually I did end up transitioning back, and I was really happy about that. I was really happy to be where everything had started. And then I would say 2 months into me coming back to onboarding, that's when they offered me the promotion. So like I said, it ended up all working out for the better. And I do think my strengths personally play into the position that I am in now. It's very people oriented, and you're on the phone for a long time, which can get very mentally exhausting. As with any job, there are going to be days where it can be really hard to balance it all. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But at the end of the day, I do feel fulfilled. I feel a strong sense of purpose and fulfillment with my role. And that's something that I did not feel at all or could foresee when I was working at the deposition company. So that is a huge difference. Just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about that and also touch on what has changed since I was first hired. As you already know, I got promoted in October of last year. I would say that is the biggest change. With that promotion has come a lot more responsibility, and being a leader is something that I am still learning. It's my first time being in a more managerial position. And for reference, I'm 23. I'm going to be turning 24 this year. So it's not a lot of years to have a lot of leadership experience. So when I came into this role, I am really grateful that the people that I work with, I've known them for a long time. So I feel like that definitely made that transition a little bit easier because I already knew these people. I was comfortable with them. So the only change was that I just was going to be handed more tasks. And I was also given the responsibility of making sure that everything was going smoothly. To be honest, I'm still learning as a leader. It's not something that I feel like I have been in this role long enough to talk about what makes a great leader or like all those things, because it's still very new and fresh for me. I've only been in the position for about 4 months, but I am learning about it, and I think eventually I will talk about what that transition was like. Also, let's just kind of talk about how my confidence has changed. You know, what's something that's really interesting about having a YouTube channel in general is that you have a visual diary of little versions of yourself. You can look back at past videos and just see the way you perceived yourself. You can see how much you've changed and grown and how much more confident you are in what you're doing. And that's definitely something that I have reflected on. Like if I were to look back at a work vlog a year ago versus one now, I feel so much more secure just going to work and like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do and I have a handle on it. And I remember the first 6 months of being a legal assistant, it was so new to me, it was so fresh, and I never thought that I would get to a point where I would feel like I knew exactly what I was doing. Now fast forward and I'm in a leadership position, it's a completely different ball game. So I wanted to share that because I get so many questions from you guys. One of the number one things that I get asked in my DMs is, you know, I feel so stressed about being a legal assistant. I feel so overwhelmed. I feel like I'm never gonna get this. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me to understand my job. And I can almost guarantee you that no one is putting as much pressure on you than yourself. And I can confidently say that as someone who is a perfectionist and has a very much of a type A personality. It may seem like your boss is chewing you out or has these high expectations for you, and they probably do. You know, working at a law firm, it requires a lot of detail. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone. So there are probably high expectations, but I think the expectations that you put on yourself to get things right away is more than anything something that you project onto yourself. That's something that I've realized that it takes time. And when I say it takes time, I'm talking, you guys, like 6 months to a year, which I know right now may sound like a lot if you're just starting out as a legal assistant. But trust me, like it's just gonna happen. Just trust me that it's gonna fall into your lap one day. One day you're gonna come into work and you're not gonna have that ball of anxiety and stress of like you have no idea what you're doing. You're still gonna feel stressed. You're still gonna have issues and problems that you're gonna face, whether it's with clients or disagreements. So that never really goes away, and that's with any job that you have in life in general. It just takes time. And I think I would really honestly give yourself 6 months and then ask yourself whether or not being a legal assistant is for you or if you want to quit. But you really have to give it 6 months to 8 months, I would say, and even a year to say that, I would say, to feel like you've really mastered it. And if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, a year and 2 years is really not that long. Like, I am sharing my experience and I've learned so much in these 2 years. But imagine for people who have been in industry for 5, 6, 7, 10 plus years, like imagine how much knowledge they have gained. And they didn't start that way. They started from the beginning. They started from the bottom. They were probably people who, graduated from college and then got their first job, and then they've, worked their way up. And I really want to encourage that. And I hope this video can give you guys, for those of you who are just starting out, a sense of peace and relief that it is okay to feel overwhelmed and to feel unsure, because I would argue almost that if you don't feel that way, then there's something wrong, because it's more often the experience that you do feel very nervous and overwhelmed at first, but it comes with time. Something else that I wanted to talk to you guys about that I don't think I ever talked about in my last legal assistant update, and I feel like this applies to not just the legal industry, but being in a more office environment or in a corporate environment, and that is how to deal with coworkers, competition, jealousy, management, just kind of how to deal with the interpersonal dynamics of being in an office environment. I did want to talk about how to approach that if maybe you're put in a position, especially if you're new. I find that this typically happens when you're first starting out somewhere. You feel kind of like an outcast. You feel like people's eyes are on you. Again, this is all normal. And a lot of the times we like to catastrophize or make the situation a lot worse in our heads than it really is. It's not to say that our feelings aren't valid or that there's not any truth to it. It's just that oftentimes, we like to make the scenario or the situation a lot bigger than it really is. If you think about it, you're working with a variety of different people with different personalities, different age groups most likely. So it's not unreasonable to think that conflict may arise. And I would say for that, one thing is to focus on your work at the end of the day. You are there to make money, obviously. And if this is a job that you're passionate about and you see yourself doing for a long time, then you're there for the experience. You're not there to please everyone. You're not there to be everyone's best friend. It's awesome and great, and it's a bonus if you become friends with the people that you work with. It makes it a much more enjoyable experience, I will say that. But at the end of the day, it's not really the end goal. The end goal is to get as much experience, like I said, make money, and to have valuable experience that will help you grow in your career. So I would say change your perspective on that. And also, you have the power to not talk about certain situations. There's always going to be gossip at work. There's always going to be like office drama, whatever. But if you are there to work and you have a very specific goal in mind, don't even listen to it. Don't even engage in that. Like if someone is coming to you and like, oh my gosh, did you hear about so-and-so? Just politely be like, oh, okay. And then go about your day. You don't have to engage in it. And I know it's very tempting in the moment to want to add more fire to that, because as humans, we're just very naturally nosy. We want to know what's going on. But from my experience, I would say stay out of it, stay out of the drama, don't engage in it, and certainly don't talk about other people behind people's backs. Seems like common sense, but it can happen a lot more easily than you think, and you don't even realize it. It's okay to have boundaries. I think boundaries are so important in a work environment. Just because you work with someone every day does not mean that they are entitled to know everything about you. If these are things that you want to share and you feel comfortable enough to share with someone that you feel has earned that trust and the respect, then by all means, go ahead and do that. But never feel like you have to give more information just to please everyone, or just to feel like you're in the crowd, or to feel like you're part of something, because if you do that, I can almost guarantee that one, you'll regret it, but also it's just not conductive to anyone. I don't want anyone to take this as discouragement to not reach out to people. Definitely be friendly, be polite. And if you think someone is really cool, or you see someone that you have similarities with, definitely try exploring that. Ask them if they want to go out for coffee maybe. I've done that before with some of my coworkers who I do consider friends outside of work, and we've gone out before. But I think my point of this is that you don't have to force it. If these people genuinely want to be your friend outside of the work environment, you'll feel that. You'll feel that energy. I think when you try to force a friendship and connection, people can sense that, and it just doesn't, it comes off as inauthentic. So rather than trying to force a friendship, let it happen organically. You don't have to be best friends with everyone. You really don't. And I think one thing as well that I've learned is that focus on your work. Focus on your work ethic. Be someone who is reliable, who is punctual, who is hardworking. And if you focus on that, what else can people say about you? They really can't. So that's what I would say if you are having any type of conflict or just feeling like there's a little bit of isolation going on, or you just feel like you can't fit in. I would say focus on the work at hand, and also along with that, how to not compare yourself to other people, or when it comes to jealousy in the work environment. You know, it is really easy sometimes, and I'll say this especially in the legal industry where it can be a little bit more cutthroat, to get hard on yourself or to ask yourself, oh, you know, why are they being promoted and I'm not? And I think at the end of the day, there are times where you do have to put your blinders on. I think as long as you're not harming anyone, as long as you're obviously not being disrespectful, then it's okay to not be chitter chatter with like everyone. People will understand that. And again, you know, I can't stress this enough. Focus on your work, focus on the quality of your work, rather than trying to appease everyone and be everyone's best friend. Because, you know, if you were to ask me, I'd rather have someone who is reliable, dependable, than someone who is my best friend at work. Sometimes you can get both, but again, I would rather have the former. Let's talk about pay raises. So I debated whether or not I wanted to officially disclose like my hourly rate and things like that. And I think what I'll do for this is, if you are genuinely interested in how much I get paid, then you can reach out to me personally on my Instagram and I will tell you. I won't gatekeep anything, so you can just personally DM me. And I think I have disclosed an hourly rate before in some video. For any of you who are interested, I have a public Instagram, so you can just DM me and I'll tell you. But I will say that over the past 2 years, I have gotten at least 2 pay raises. So when I came back, I got a pay raise for having experience. So when I was rehired for a higher hourly rate, and then when I got promoted, I also got a pay bump. So I got 2 pay raises technically, and if we were to calculate like where I started from where I am now, it's a $5 difference. I do get benefits, medical, dental, vision, and then my company also has a flexible spending account, which essentially just covers medical costs. So if I go to the dentist or I have a doctor checkup and there's a copay for that, I have a credit card that my work has provided that covers that. So I have 2 more talking points that I want to get to. It's going to be my plans for law school, and also talking more about if you should be a legal assistant. And I think I'm going to start with the latter. The number one question that I get asked is, should I be a legal assistant? Do you think I will be good enough to be a legal assistant? And to that, I would say, I don't know. And you won't know either until you try. This is something that I can't answer for you. I can only speak from my own experience. I can only give you so much advice, but at the end of the day, it is your choice whether or not you want to pursue this. I've always been an advocate of, you have to give something a fair shot to really understand if it's for you. That hands-on experience, that tangible hands-on experience that you get from working at a law firm and interacting with the attorneys and understanding what the workload is like, that is so invaluable to any video that you'll find on YouTube talking about their advice, to any article on what it's like being a legal assistant, to any work vlog. Like, all of those things are great, and I do provide that content because I do think it's helpful, because it's relatable and you can get a glimpse of it. Now, that only goes so far, and it should not replace the hands-on experience that I do think is really valuable for you to get if you are seriously considering stepping into the legal industry. When I graduated college, I would say I was like 75%, maybe no, actually I would say 65% sure that I wanted to go to law school and do this as a career. I really wasn't 100% sure, and I'm not ashamed to admit that, because sometimes there's pressure as a young adult to know exactly what you want to do. I had a general idea of what I wanted to do. I knew that my strengths were in communication, writing, public speaking. Now, again, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into until I just threw myself into that situation. And now, 2 years later, I make videos about being a legal assistant, and it's just been a really fun journey. So I think that if you are really considering it, go for it. Don't be afraid to do it, because that's the only way that you'll really figure out if it's meant for you. My last talking point, which I'm really excited about, is my plans for law school. I haven't really talked about law school purposely because, to be honest, up until I would say fall of last year, I really hadn't made the decision on whether or not I was going to go. And the reason for that is, one, it's obviously very expensive, it's very time consuming. And the more I thought about it, I think the thing that was holding me back was that I was afraid of failing, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be smart enough to get into law school. I know these reasons are very arbitrary and very cliche, but that's really the truth of it. I think I was scared to make that commitment because vocalizing it and speaking about it out loud would make it real. So I really sat with myself and I was like, okay, why are you scared to go to law school? Like, what are the reasons? What's preventing you? And it really was a fear-based mindset. Will I end up going to law school? Who really knows? Like, we just don't know. I'm gonna try my best. I've already started prepping for it. I actually ordered a LSAT prep book, which should be coming this week, so I'm really excited for that. But I don't know. I have horrible test anxiety. It's something that I've learned about myself, is that I feel like I do really well in class and I do really well with the material, but when you test me on it, everything goes blank and it goes straight out the window. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna have to work really hard on, is getting over my testing anxiety. And I'm really excited to share this journey with you guys because I know that it's gonna help some of you out there who are also on a similar journey. And I'm also starting from like ground zero in terms of LSAT prep. What has been really helpful though is I have a lot of coworkers and friends who have started the LSAT journey, or who have already done the LSAT, are currently taking the LSAT, and are going to law school. So it's been really, really helpful to get their advice. But I am really excited to share that. I am going to be sharing that once I get a little, a more solidified plan of what I'm doing. But so far, I have started the initial research. I have been looking into a general timeline. But like I said, I'm still very much, learning. I'm still very much exposing myself and reading a lot of materials. Now going into law school, I'm definitely way more diligent on informing myself about everything, trying to prepare myself, and also giving myself enough time. That is a huge thing for me, that I told myself that I am not going to rush this process. I'm going to give myself enough time to where I feel really confident about taking the LSAT. And that is something that people told me. The number one thing is to give yourself enough time. Don't take the test until you feel confident. At least that's what I've gathered. That is my 2-year update as a legal assistant. I feel like I've been talking for so much, and hopefully I didn't leave anything out. But if you do have specific questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or you could also DM me on my Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. It sometimes takes me a little bit of time to respond, but I always try my best to give a very personalized and thoughtful message if you do reach out to me. And also keep a lookout for the work vlogs. I haven't done a legal assistant work vlog for 2024, so I'm actually gonna be filming that tomorrow, which is a Monday. I'm gonna be doing the first work vlog for this year, and I'm gonna be doing a week in my life at a law firm. So super excited to be filming that. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in another video. Bye.